As the crisis ignited by the removal of petrol subsidy rumbles on, stakeholder groups representing Nigerian workers have been reacting in a number of ways. In the past few hours, the Nigeria Labour Congress took the decision to back down from its threat to send its members on a nationwide strike while continuing talks with government. The Trade Union Congress, which is NLC's counterfoil in labour matters, has responded by demanding 200,000 naira as minimum wage, more than 500% increment in government's recognized figure of 30,000 naira. Well, joining us now to look at the feasibility or otherwise of that demand, ongoing negotiations with government and how to cushion the effect of deregulation is Festus Osifo, who is president of Trade Union Congress. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us on Newsday.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
So I'd like to start, by asking how the TUC arrived at the 200,000 naira minimum wage. Was there a cost analysis, to see if that price or if that amount would actually be enough to cushion the impact of the oil subsidy removal, considering the high rate of inflation we are currently witnessing and we are expected to witness, as the oil subsidy removal actually kicks into effect?
Yeah, I think you have clearly said it all, because in Nigeria today, if you remember, in 2019, when we negotiated the 30,000 naira minimum wage, as at then, what was our inflation figure? So if you look at that 30,000 as at then, if you do the net present value of that 30,000, by the time you discount you look at the exchange rate. As at when we did that 30,000 naira as at then, exchange rate as at that time was around 300 plus. But today, exchange rate in parallel market is about 750, almost times 2 of that figure. Then if you look at the inflation that has persisted, between that time and now, it's super double-digit inflation. When we say double-digit inflation, it could be somewhere around 10, 11, 12%. But for us, we're doing 22% plus. That's why I refer to it as a super level inflation. So when you put all that together, the 30,000 naira as at then is supposed to be over 70,000 naira as at today. But we are also anticipating for the future. If you read Daily News Trust few days ago, they said that they want the exchange rate is moving towards 630. But although CBN came out to counter that, but from the intels we are having and from the feelers that we are having, that exchange rate will most likely move. It's just a matter of when. So when that exchange rate moves, for example, let's assume to about 650 naira in the unification. So if they unify at that 650, the unification is all CBN exchange rates. We unify at a particular amount. But the parallel market, the value of the parallel market, it now depends on how you fund that unification value. So if today, if CBN moves to about 650, and you still have a lot of items that are in the list that CBN is not funding, people still go to banks to get PTA or BTA, and they are not able to get. People are not able to meet their FS obligations. So what is going to happen is that people are going to patronize the parallel market. So when they patronize the parallel market, the gap is going to widen. So we could see a scenario where the parallel market may hit almost 1,000 naira this year. So we are trying to be futuristic. So we factored all these into the value, and we now added the markup. Of course, we will not go there with our barest minimum. Because if we go there with our barest minimum, government is also going to negotiate. So we also added a little headroom, which I will not review here, so that we'll have that room to negotiate. So for us, we think that what we have submitted is reasonable. We think that what we have submitted is something that is doable, considering our devaluation of Naira over the years, and also considering our level of inflation today.
And just to add to that, KPMG, the audit, tax, and advisories services firm, well, they predicted that the subsidy removal would see inflation reach at least 30% starting this month. So that's something to chew on as well. As we know that the strike has been called off, which was supposed to start today. The federal government procured a court injunction in order to make that so. I'm now wondering how confident you are that the negotiations will go as planned for the June 19th scheduled date, whether or not, you know, what the Trade Union Congress is asking for will actually be addressed, reviewed, and implemented.
Yes, we believe that on the 19th, that all parties are going to sit together and kickstart the process of negotiations. So we clearly believe that. But if government does otherwise, because they think they have court order, I mean, they will have the trade unions to contend with. Court order too can also be vacated. So we are not deterred in any way by the court order, but we believe that all parties are going to sit down on that date to meet. So when we sit down on that date to meet, we'll most likely now set up a committee with a specific timeline for them to look at the issues and refer to us. This time around, what we have told the government is that the days are over where we sign MOU, where we sign MOA, and 2 years down the line, excuses will now be abound. Anything that we come up with, anything that we will sign from day one, we are going to monitor the implementation. So there must be a window where we will see to the implementation of these, and not we sit back and we wait. After a while, they come and give us myriad of excuses. Excuses can be sharp anywhere, but we want practical solutions. So for us, we believe that on the 19th, that all parties will sit down, will look at all issues from one till the end in view of resolving them.
Now, we know that you asked the government to revert to the old fuel pump price of 195 naira per litre while negotiations continue. But for now, that is really not happening, and it doesn't look like it's likely to happen. So are you willing to shelve that part of your demand and go on with the negotiations?
Yes, the mandate that we had from the neck of TUC was that, yes, you should keep pushing that the pump price should return back. But as much as you are pushing, don't stall negotiation with that. So we are pushing for the pump price to return back. Yes, we understand. As well, we also understand the implications and all that of that as also discussed in our neck. But we are focused principally on the issues. So that is why, if you see the communique that we sent, is because if the mandate clearly was you must return back before discussion, what we would have done was that we wouldn't have commenced any discussion until we pressure them to revert back. But now we are asking at every meeting. That's the first thing we put on the table. Then after that, government will give its reasons why it cannot return back, but we'll proceed to start discussing other issues as mandated by the neck of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria.
And in that situation where the government reviews and hypothetically decides to not revert back to the pump price and maybe does not agree to some other items on the list of negotiation requests, what is the Trade Union Congress prepared to do?
Yes, we don't want to preempt the process. We cannot preempt the process today. So we are entering those discussions and negotiations in a very good faith. So, but as we progress, we will continuously review, because the neck of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has mandated the National Administrative Council to keep reviewing and as well take decisions in the best interest, not just of Trade Union members of Trade Union Congress, but indeed the entire Nigerian workforce and the Nigerian masses. So we will be reviewing as we progress from 19th of June.
Now, Mr. Osifo, some states have already reduced their working days, from 5 to 3 days, like Kwara State, Edo State, in order to help cushion the impact of the oil subsidy removal. I'm wondering if this will be acceptable to the TUC in the event, that the federal government is not able to meet your demands. And what else do you think can be done to help cushion the impact of this oil subsidy removal?
Yes, for us, I think today we are entering into smart work. We are entering into a system where you can work anywhere. If you remember, during COVID, the ministries, they were shut down for about 1 year. Does it mean that the job wasn't going on? The job was also going on at the end of the day. So even today, a lot of private companies, they work, even some banks in a week, they work like 3 or 4 times from the office, and they work like once or twice from home. So that is now the new way of work, and also the smart way of work. So for us, those people being at home, I think a system can also be devised where they can work anywhere. There there are people that live abroad, but they work for firms and companies in Nigeria. So that is not an issue. But if you look at the list that we submitted, so there are a whole lot of things there. We talked about tax holiday for those within the minimum wage and those that are slightly above the minimum wage. The 200,000 naira that we wrote there as a minimum wage, if you go down in that list, you are going to see that we are asking for tax holiday for them. So that anytime we now agree on a particular value of minimum wage, it will not be imputed into that, and that tax holiday will be given to them. We have also talked about even those in private sector as well. Then we even went further to also propose that the cost of governance, there must be reduction in the cost of governance in the medium term. So we're looking at somewhere around 15% in 2024 and somewhere around 30% in 2025. When the cost of governance is reduced, we want that fund and that money to be channeled into infrastructural development that we also have a way of trickling down. Then we also talked about power. So power also has a way of affecting the generality, but these are for the medium term. But the short term that we talked about, if you look at it, things like tax holiday, things like giving PMS allowance, things like even they talked about the transfer of 5,000 naira to the vulnerable Nigerians, but we rejected that. We said that the way they have been doing it in the past, the rejection is based on the way that we're doing it in the past. So they now consider that, okay, what we could do, we could come together, we review the processes, because we said Nigeria is a country where we don't have database. So you are saying you want to send this money to about 10 million Nigerians. The conditional cash transfer that you have done over the years, we've not been able to audit it. We don't really know what is in it today. So that process must be looked at. We must be satisfied that what they are trying to do is right. After all, the money they are going to use in doing this is also a loan that has been secured, and it's also adding to our loan profile. So all these are going to be looked at the immediate. Then we also talked about the issues of CNG. So how fast can we deploy CNG across the length and breadth of our country, and also get some of these buses converted from the internal combustion engine to a system that could use the CNG. So all these are the conversations that we are going to have when we meet from the 19th of June.
And the Trade Union Congress, we do know that the National Labor Congress is already a part of this strike. Just wondering what the relationship between both bodies is currently, and what jointly you would be working for come the next meeting.
Okay, if I get you well, it was echoing a bit, but if I get you well, you are asking the relationship between TUC and NLC, if
yes.
I get you too well.
Yes.
I think today, there is no issue whatsoever. There is no issue whatsoever. TUC had its neck and took a resolution. NLC had its neck and took a resolution. So what could have happened was that at a point, we will come together. The issue of strike and all that, in fact, before the meeting of Monday, the leadership of NLC and TUC, we already had a meeting. We had almost 3 hours meeting in order to harmonize. So I want Nigeria to be assured that the TUC and NLC, there is no division whatsoever, because our interest is the same. And what is that interest? How do we protect the Nigerian workers? How do we push and ensure that the workers are not victimized? And by extension, the entire Nigerian populace, those that cannot speak for themselves. So clearly for us, there is no division whatsoever.
Now, Mr. Osifo, some people believe, that the TUC and other labor unions, should also be demanding a probe or possibly an audit of the all subsidy payment scheme, so as to know those who benefited from what has been described as a scam, and probably punished. I'd like to know your take on that.
Yeah, we don't need, today, you don't even need to reinvent the wheel, because today we have a series of probes sitting there in the National Assembly. You remember the Farouk Lawal issue. You remember the one, Saraki, the former Senate president, when he was a member of the Senate. You remember what he did? So for us, I think it's just to implement those probes that you've already done. In Nigeria, we like setting up committees, we like probing and probing and probing. At the end of the day, they'll be gathering dust in the shelf. So for us, government should go further and look at it and, prosecute those people that were found wanting. Let us do that first. By the time we do that, then we can now look further, you know, if there are other issues to contend with. So, but for us, the ones that they have probed, let us bring them to limelight. Let us take those people to the tribunal. Let's take them to court. Let's take them to various courts in the land and get them prosecuted. I think that should be the first thing we must do as at today. I mean, before we start thinking of going into a series of other probes that may end up nowhere.
Well, the Edo State government, we actually touched on this earlier, but the Edo State government is allowing their own civil servants to work from home for a certain amount of days and has also proposed to increase the minimum wage to 40,000 naira. 40,000 naira versus 200,000 naira is a big gap in terms of negotiation. I'm wondering where you think the number might stop, because it certainly might not be that full 200. Are you willing to settle on something a little bit lower, or is it completely 200,000 naira only?
No, the 200, I mean, like I said, what we have submitted is a demand. There is no unionist that will submit a demand and you will think you will get exactly what you have submitted. But we have an argument. For us, what was done in Edo is quite good. Moving it to 40,000 naira is quite good. But at the end of the day, 40,000 naira is just like a wage award. When you say minimum wage is the floor. Minimum wage is the minimum, just as the name implies. But government can do much more beyond minimum wage. So if any government today is choosing to do anything above minimum wage, we commend them. But if they do 40,000 today, and the minimum wage remain 30,000. What will happen is that tomorrow they can also decide to go back because it is not a law. But when it is a law that this is the minimum wage, that is what it will be. So for us, it is a demand. So when we get to the table, we have to justify what we have put forward. But at the end of the day, are we expecting that government will sign exactly 200,000? The answer is a no, because the value we got, we added a markup to it to get to where we are now, to give headroom for negotiations and discussions.
Mr. Osifo, some people are worried, that labor unions might eventually sell out, and sacrifice the interest of the masses, because already the NLC is accusing the federal government of weaponizing court injunctions. So I'd like you to give Nigerians, a reassurance that indeed you would fight for their rights to the very end. They will not be tossed up and down, probably like ASU, the doctors. What reassurance can you give to Nigerians?
Yeah, first, we should know that labor unions are not opposition government. Labor unions are not opposition political parties. But labor unions have a role to protect the Nigerian workforce. Because this Nigerian workforce, at the end of the day, they are more or less like the masses in the society. So by extension, the Nigerian masses. So for us, we will continuously push. For us, we will continuously advocate. For us, we will do everything within our means to ensure that the current suffering Nigerians are passing through are cushioned. Are we expecting that no matter what we discuss, it will remove the pain 100%? Then we must not be we are not being realistic to ourselves. But do we believe that we'll be able to push and put the best forward to ensure that at the end of the day, these issues are cushioned? The answer is yes. Because the alternative to that is going to be a bit difficult for everybody. So for us in labor union, we wish to assure our members that cut across the length and breadth of the country that we are here to fight for them, we are here to advocate for them, and we are here to defend the best interest of Nigerian workers.
And still going back to that 200,000 naira minimum wage proposal, and of course seeing the state of the economy, the global economy, with the Nigerian states, some of them claiming to not have enough to run the most basics. Some states haven't even implemented that minimum wage of 30K that was proposed a long while ago. What is the expectation that any hike can actually happen?
Yes, so the government, they have made the argument. And part of the argument that they made is that if you remove subsidy, that they are going to have more money available to be shared in a federation account. And part of it, and from what we have also seen, today, if you want to, if NNPC, for example, or any other government agency, if they are remitting money to the Federation account and the money is earned in USD, it's going to be, I mean, the conversion rate is the official CBN rate of about 450. And from what we have seen, that rate is going to move. Yeah, CBN has denied, but from all indication, I mean, it is going to move. So by the time that moves, for example, and it moves, let's say, to what the Daily Trust said, that it will be around 630 naira. So if it's around 330 naira, between 630 and 450, you could see that differential. That differential within that range there is almost 50% already. What that means is that the money that will be made available to be shared in the Federation account will be much more, most especially the foreign exchange. So based on that, we believe that anything we finally agree with or agree on, that most of the states will implement. But now the era with which we sit back and allow the state to do whatsoever they want to do is gone. The state government and the state governors must be held accountable, because we have had some states that a particular government will come and they will say they will not be able to pay XYZ amount of money. But once they leave, another governor comes in. The governor will clear their backlogs and even increase their minimum wage. So what that means clearly is just issues of priority. So the governors must get their priority right. Governance is not a tea party. Governance is not meant for the lazy, but for those that can think. That is why in different parts of the world, people that enter government, people that enter into positions are those that can think critically, are those that can put on their thinking cap and profile solutions to knotty issues. So for us, we will hold them accountable to do what is right once the minimum wage is agreed, because we believe that they can do it. It's for them to reorder their priorities. It's actually doable.
Now, Mr. Osifo, I've heard some analysts, argue that asking the federal government to cushion the impact of all subsidy removal will be counterproductive, as the funds that will be generated from removing subsidies will then be used to provide palliatives, especially in a country like ours where we know corruption is very pervasive. They believe that the whole purpose of removing subsidies will then be defeated. I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
Yes, that's actually why we are having this conversation with them, to ensure that, we don't just leave everything to them. Let me give you a clear-cut example. Do you know that in the last 20 years, before 2021, when they said they have been doing turnaround maintenance in Nigerian refineries, if you have any friend, if you have any brother that works in the refinery, they will tell you that there have not been any turnaround maintenance in those refineries since 2005. But do you know that since 2021, there is a high level of rehabilitation going on in those refineries? Why? Because the union insisted, the two centers, NLC, TUC, the two in-house, Pengassan and Nupeng, insisted that there must be a representative of the union in the steering committee of the refinery rehabilitation. Maybe another day, we could have conversations on the added value that was brought to bear in that regard. Today, the unions that were there, they ensured that the money that was borrowed to fix those refineries was never released to CBN. We ensured that the money that was borrowed was never channeled to another purpose, but instead, those funds were kept in the escrow account, where you pay per milestones. That was the innovation the union brought to bear. So today, nobody can collect a dime from that money, because it is an escrow account managed by Afri-Exim, and they release the money in trenches. So that is the added value. So, and that added value as well is what we will also bring to bear in anything we agree on. So that at the end of the day, government will not channel the funds to do some other things. Yeah, in terms of the palliatives, yes, if they say they spend about 7 trillion in a year on subsidy, we are not expecting them to spend the entire 7 trillion on palliatives. Yes, some of them can be used in cushioning the effects, but others could be channeled into areas such as infrastructure, areas such as education, areas such as health, that when this is done, the life or the quality of life of an average Nigerian will be much more better. So we will not leave them and allow them to put us into more difficulty. We would be with them and ensure that they do what is right. Whenever they refuse, they will have us to contend with.
Well, President of the Trade Union Congress, TUC, Festus Osifo, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for having this conversation.